Your forecast first, sponsored by Matex Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing.
Well, as we take a look outside on this Tuesday evening, quiet conditions, clouds continuing to clear off to the east here tonight, as we have seen some mist and drizzle for much of the day. That beginning to fade away. Temperatures falling, though, where the skies have cleared. You can really distinctly tell where the clouds are still located. Champaign, Mattoon, as we're near 40. Compare that to the 30 in Springfield, where those skies have cleared. Now, in areas where the skies have cleared, we are concerned about a little bit of fog that could be out there early in the morning tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., and then improving conditions there through the afternoon, but definitely look out for that fog. 50s for highs, looking good there. We'll talk more about the big cool down with snow in the forecast coming up. WCIA 3 News starts right now.
Now on WCIA 3 News.
It's usually a good thing when a city grows. How some are making sure it's still easy and quick for you to get around.
One school board is considering adding 2 school resource officers to the district. Tonight, we'll share what parents had to say about it.
People have heard him DJ in Central Illinois. Now he's trying to prove he's one of the best in the world.
You're watching your local news leader. This is WCIA 3 News at 10.
We're sort of a bright spot, I think.
The greater Champaign area is growing, and community leaders are making sure they have a solid plan to accommodate that. Good evening, I'm Paul Cicchini.
And I'm Jessica Coons. Tonight, city leaders in Champaign talked about the future, specifically when it comes to transportation. They're considering the fact that more people are moving from rural areas into cities, but also expanding possibilities for people who do stay rural. The Regional Planning Commission presented a 25-year plan at council tonight. WCIA 3's Emily Braun is live in downtown Champaign. Emily, what was their study based off of?
Jessica, a lot of it was based off of an extensive amount of public input. And there's really a lot of information to summarize here, but the gist of it is that people really want to be able to walk, bike, and ride the bus more, essentially reducing their carbon footprint. And one of the strongest selling points of Champaign, and the reason why it continues to grow, just might be related to transportation. Champaign's population is well over 80,000, growing every year.
The entire state is maybe not experiencing that level of prosperity. So in that regard, we're sort of a bright spot, I think.
With more people in the city and on the roads, though, one thing has stayed the same. Lacey Rains-Lowe is with the Champaign Planning Department.
In every one of those censuses where they've collected this information, we've had a commute time of 15 minutes or less.
From home to work, that includes every form of transportation. Lowe says that's a big perk of living and working in Champaign. So when she plans for future growth, she's talking from within.
But thinking about growing in a compact and contiguous way. So something that doesn't facilitate sprawl, but grows within where existing services can be provided.
That brings us to transportation planning, going beyond Champaign proper and into surrounding cities, where Ashley McLaughlin comes in. Based on public input, she says the future revolves around less commute and less of a carbon footprint.
We envision people maybe working closer to where they live, going to school closer to where they live, having better bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure.
Which could also mean places like Champaign-Urbana growing even more.
We do imagine that the population will grow in the urbanized areas, and it might shrink somewhat in the more rural areas.
This long-range transportation plan looks at the next 25 years ahead, and they said another big priority is making sure that people in the more rural areas have more transit options. And there's a lot that we couldn't tell you tonight, so if you want to read more on all of the objectives of this plan, we have a link to where you can do that on our website, WCIA.com. Live in Champaign, Emily Braun, WCIA 3, your local news leader.
Emily, thank you so much. Champaign is waiting for the 2020 census results to see how much they've grown in the past decade. But between 2000 and 2010, the city had about 20% growth in population.
The city of Springfield officially decided where recreational marijuana can be sold in the city. Council members approved zoning recommendations that will allow the sale in the downtown areas and retail areas. It'll open the door for a new dispensary in the city that's planning on opening on the east side. Some council members pushed back against the new rules, worried about the dangers they could pose. Others felt that argument is stale.
They wouldn't need to be smoking. They could get a gummy ball and be outside and pass around gummy balls, and we just don't want to do that to our downtown.
It's here. Let's get ready for it, and we've had this discussion now how many times here at City Council? Is this the fourth? Okay, it's enough. Let's move it along.
The mayor tried to add an amendment to the zoning, wanting to cap the number of marijuana licenses in the city at 5 and allowing only one marijuana-related business per ward. The council decided to leave that matter to the state. The amendment did not get a vote.
Champaign Schools is $37 million over budget on construction projects, but that doesn't mean taxpayers will be paying more for them. School board members met today to approve how to handle their remaining bonds. Voters approved a $183 million referendum in 2016. $110 million in bonds have been issued. Almost $73.5 million remain. Now, had they stayed on budget, taxes would have gone down sooner. Now you'll be paying those higher taxes for 20 years. The district has to sell the bonds by February. The board president and the superintendent will have to approve the final numbers. Following up from our story at 6 o'clock, teaching assistants made a scene outside MacArthur High School ahead of tonight's school board meeting in Decatur, but there were no fireworks inside. The meeting itself included one member of the community, a former school nurse, who spoke in support of TAs. She challenged board members and the superintendent to spend a day with a TA. The district and teaching assistants union will meet for mediation on Thursday. Negotiations started in April, and TAs have been working without a contract since July.
A member right now who has family insurance is bringing home a paycheck of about $400 a pay period, but under the board's proposal of increasing family insurance, that paycheck will be cut in half to $200 a pay period. So
he says the union will continue to bargain in good faith, but wouldn't say whether members would consider another strike. The district had no comment. Student safety continues to be an evolving concern as school shootings end the lives of young people across the country.
Yeah, the Urbana School Board is tackling that subject. Tonight, it's considering adding 2 full-time resource officers at the middle and high schools. WCIA 3's Jennifer Jensen is live at that meeting. Jennifer, that discussion is still underway?
Paul, that is right. About 15 people spoke up at public comment in opposition to this idea. But like you said, that conversation between the school board members on whether or not to approve this is still happening right now. Now, under this current proposal, the Urbana Police Department would reassign 2 patrol officers to fill the SRO positions. They've already chosen one who began working as the full-time middle school SRO in September. The full-time high school SRO has not been assigned yet. Now, if this proposal is approved, that person would start the new role in January. The concern many parents have with this revolves around how to best implement student safety. While some principals and a couple people did speak in public comment in support of the SROs tonight, most of those public comments were not in favor of it.
There's a hypocritical response. There's the gun culture, and it's clear that more guns are not solving this problem. Urbana does not want these cops in the schools. Person after person is coming up here telling y'all.
Full-time officers with loaded weapons can actually serve to decrease positive school culture. These studies are readily available and were presented to this board last Thursday in the form of a letter signed by now over 70 community members.
All-inclusively, this would cost about $325,000, including insurance, benefits, pension, vehicles, and equipment, and salary. And the police department says the intergovernmental agreement would last for about 2.5 years. But since this is an intergovernmental agreement, the city would also have to approve it. That decision would be made at the beginning of next month. But first, the school board has to approve this proposal. Like I said, that discussion is still happening right now, so I will remain at the school board meeting to bring you the result of that vote as soon as it happens. Live in Urbana, I'm Jennifer Jensen, WCIA 3, your local news leader.
All right, Jennifer, let us know when you have an update. We do also have an update from 6 o'clock. Panelists held a forum to discuss faculty sexual harassment and misconduct at the University of Illinois. The panelists leading the discussion spoke about the importance of involving students in the conversation, especially when their own professors are at the center of assault allegations. We told you recently about 2 professors facing allegations, Gary Shue at the U of I in Champaign-Urbana and Paul Shuey at the U of I Chicago. They also discussed the importance of more confidential consultants so victims can share their story without fear of retaliation.
We have new information out of McLean County tonight. A Bloomington woman accused of killing her former boyfriend's daughter was found guilty today. 8-year-old Rika Roundtree was kicked to death. Her autopsy also showed scars which indicated months of abuse. 42-year-old Cynthia Baker was found guilty of murder, domestic battery, and endangering the life of a child. She faces more than 200 years in prison. Some people in Mattoon are furious about what was spray painted onto a church.
I say God's perfect whorehouse. It's a disgrace.
That is written on the wall of Southside Church of Christ, but it's not the only property that was damaged. Police say last night 2 teenagers spray painted homes, garages, street signs, even roads.
I think it was an isolated incident one night with a couple of teenagers who got bored and thought it would be a good idea to go out and spray paint.
18-year-old Adam Briggs and a 14-year-old were taken into custody. Police say both of them admitted to it, but neither could explain why they did it.
It's a paid-for stay at a hotel for people from one apartment complex while they were forced from their homes.
Plus, if you've been to a club, you've probably heard this. We'll show you how this DJ is about to take a much bigger stage.
And firefighters are moving up in the ranks in one city. Why that's also a problem.